Spartans versus Space Marines, two of the most well-known combatants in fiction, feared and loved in their respective verses. Let's go over who we think wins. Spartans, humanity's greatest weapon, genetically modified and augmented suited in Mjolnir, meant to greatly improve speed, strength, agility, and durability, standing 7 feet tall and a ton with armor. Flipping warthogs are using mongooses and melee weapons, with some new writing having them flip scorpions with their punches, but we won't use that. Their skill is equally impressive, beating out elites, a warrior race of 8 feet tall lizards, or Spartans effortlessly overpowering brute chieftains, a formidable race of ape-like warriors. I mean, throwing a drop pod isn't uncommon for these guys. For armor, they have Mjolnir, made out of a titanium alloy shell with a hydrostatic gel and liquid crystal layer, with a biofoam injector to seal wounds and an energy shield system capable of absorbing grenades, 7.62 armor piercing, 20 and 50mm autocannons, with scorpion shots being the outlier, rendering the Spartan useless for a while, with the armor itself deflecting a 57 caliber, hunter assault cannons, fuel rod cannons, with Spartan Kirk comparing the armor to a light tank, which seems pretty reasonable given the situations they're constantly put in. For weapons, they're packing these, very skilled in hand-to-hand combat, taking on multiple enemies or hulking units, and an MA5 assault rifle, a pretty down-to-earth gun compared to most of sci-fi, but still firing a 7.62 armor-piercing round. Traveling a little less than Mach 3 with 4,100 joules, enough to penetrate level 3 body armor, about 7/8 inches steel, holding 32 rounds. And a handgun in lore best represented by Alucard's pistol, or with a 12.7mm armor-piercing explosive rounds and a combat net able to cut titanium, and pretty strong frags. Those are 3-ton vehicles. And for speed, you hear Kelly being the fastest Spartan at 38 miles per hour. That benchmark's been broken multiple times, outrunning warthogs, catching up to ghosts, claiming mongooses are no use to them, most likely because of mobility, but these numbers are everywhere, 50 to 90 to 60. And that last one is probably the most reasonable. The Spartan Field Manual says that even without armor, reaching 25 miles per hour, while in armor, Spartan Gen 2 Mark IVs with augmentation and neural implants give them a 5 millisecond reaction time. Pretty well equipped in MA5 with 7.62 armor-piercing rounds and as durable as a light tank, running 60 miles per hour. Quite the super soldier. Now what about the Emperor's finest, the Angels of Death, Space Marine? Clocking in around a ton in armor, standing 8 feet tall, heavily augmented warriors with 2 hearts, 3 lungs, acid spit, enhanced hearing, and a lot more we'll get to. With strength being hard to find for the average Marine, the best numbers seem to come from Deathwatch RPG rulebook, around 5 to 10 tons, which seems consistent, being able to rip men in half or easily lift a ton, or 2 Space Marines. Pushing Orc cannons or tearing into tanks, whooping on Orc knobs or Tyranids will require some power. With Space Marine speed being comparable to Eldar warriors, with some writers going crazy like 19 feet of pace or faster than light speeds, but that seems too Dragon Ball for 40k soldiers. Well, sort of. The sight of an Adeptus Astati was one thing, but the moving fact of one was quite another. The psychologist called it transhuman dread. A frozen man stuck him to the ground, caused his mind to lock up, made him lose control of his bladder and bowels. Damn. With Talos going around 60 miles per hour, which seems consistent for burst, even in rubble going 55 miles per hour. With Cole running 300 meters in 18 seconds, that's around 37 miles per hour. It feels like Astartes hits it on the head, around 55 to 60 miles per hour, cheetah speed. For equipment, they tend to carry a bolter, a massive submachine gun that rips through enemies like orcs, demons, Tyranids, shooting a 75 caliber round, with a diamantite tip that explodes on penetration, rendering most armor useless. The Space Marine 2 trailer shows this pretty well. It's like a 700 caliber round. They also have a smaller version, the bolt pistol, similar to Alucard's gun also, just ripping through units using the same mechanics and ammo of a bolter. And frag grenades, you know what a frag is. And a chainsword with giant teeth shredding enemies. This is a lot closer than I thought going into this. The general idea of the Spartan is every aspect is worse: speed, stamina, durability, the weapon they use, but it seems more split. I know that's heresy to say, and I already know what you typed out in the comments, trust me.
Oh, they're worse than animals. They're worse than animals. Really want to know what I think? I think it's revenge against God for the crime of being. It's Cain. Abel's your guy, eh, God? How about if I take him out in the field and beat him to death? Yeah.
Well, let's look at the differences. Like vision, for an example. They both have a tracking feature, zoom, motion sensors, and neural implants that connect them to the set helmet. For augmentations overall, though, the Space Marine edges it out with more organs, stronger healing factor, a better durability out of armor, but the fact the Spartan shield can regain is a huge problem, especially if we get into an environment with a lot of cover. The high end of the Spartan speed would be Mach 2.64, dodging an MA5, and for Space Marines, Brownie 338 came up with probably the most comprehensive bolter analysis there is. I'll link it in the description. Coming up with Mach 2.27. If we use these numbers, that difference matters. That's getting speed blitz. But if we use the more down-to-earth speeds, that difference wouldn't matter much. Reaction time would. Who's processing who first? And that's where the Spartan edges it out. The Fall of Reach book stated, it's almost impossible to chart. We estimated 20 milliseconds. This is for an out-of-armor 14-year-old boy. With growth in a piezoelectric liquid layer in Mjolnir, I don't think it's unreasonable to say 5 to 10 milliseconds. For Space Marines, the only solid answer I could find was from Deathwatch Codex, giving them 15 milliseconds. So the Spartan will be quicker to the draw, so it's really up to the weapon and durability. I would say the Spartan has the durability. While the armor for both are super similar in the heavier plated regions, tanking 20mm autocannons, grenades, both are pretty resilient to energy-based attacks. But add in the Spartan shield that can deflect 2 or 3 shots, that triumph. That's why I question if the weapons matter as much. They can both penetrate an inch of steel. Oh, but analysis, these are alloys and space metals. The word doesn't act like it. Look what they die by. These guns aren't too extreme in reality, and there's no reason to think either of them don't know to shoot the weak points in the armor. And with the reaction time and being able to tank the initial rounds, and if need be have that shield come back up, feels like a huge advantage to me, especially if this is a more normal battlefield to cover. I would probably give it to the Spartan 7 out of 10 times. No reason to think the Space Marine with the battle knowledge and experience can't outmaneuver and win some circumstances. They beat opponents in lore stronger than them all the time. So Spartan Boy takes it in my book. Tell me why that's a bad analysis. See what I did there? So what do my end viewers want? My top guys. Guts versus a Primarch, Pyramid Head versus Jason. Comments and stuff, any ideas cool. Monsters maybe? And also, I'm not biased. I went into this open-minded. Yeah, Space Marines don't shoot cannonballs. Peace out.